I just passed a temple that I haven't visited before, so I thought I would duck down this side road for a little bit of a detour and see what the grounds of this temple look like. Looks to be a Buddhist temple. I looked on Google Maps for the name of it, but it came up in Thai, so I don't know what this place is called. Got a sign right here, and I think it must be the name of the temple. There it is there. And there are the temple grounds just back there. Looks very nice against the blue skies today. For those of you following the technical background of these YouTube videos, you might notice that the field of view has gotten a little bit smaller from the last little while because I experimented with the wide field of view on the GoPro, and I don't mind the wide field of view, but I had all kinds of trouble with exposure. And I started to suspect that having this very wide field of view, which involves a lot of sky and ground with a lot of light on it, might have interfered with exposure in the middle. Just a theory. But I am back on linear view, in case anyone was keeping score. And the linear view is actually a very wide field of view by regular camera standards. So not really losing anything. It's not narrow in any way. Even linear is quite wide. I love the gates. Look at that up against the blue sky and the clouds. Looks great. And I always enjoy walking past the guardians of these temples. I always feel like they're allowing me in, because I mean, I don't know much about Buddhism. I read about it from time to time, so I would have read all about the symbolism of this guy and this, I believe, called a naga, this snake-like creature. And I read all this stuff and I learn it, and then unfortunately I quickly forget it each time. But I'm left with a sense that these are guardian creatures who keep evil spirits out of the temple. So if I pass through the gates and they allow me in, then they've concluded that I'm okay. And of course, once I'm on the temple grounds, no evil spirits can follow me inside. So here we are on the quiet temple grounds. Beautiful spot, actually. It's very nice. I like these small towers that you often see on temple grounds, and then they have the drums on each floor. Oh, look at these little cottages, a whole row of them, and I guess the monks live here. Let's see if I can go up the stairs. Oh, closed. So the gate is closed. So a monk came by and just told me that it's okay to go up here. I just have to slide the gate on its wheels. And there we go. Here's this large drum. I love getting views of everywhere. So if I ever have a chance to go up higher, I always take it. And I often pay the price for that because I'll end up quite tired at the end of a day because I have to climb up everything I see. Oh yeah, it's astonishing how we only went up one floor And yet our perspective on the temple grounds changed completely. Oh, I thought there was another level, but I guess this is actually as high as we can go. And here is a bell. There's better exposure, I think. So I think I'm going to take a walk through here and see some of these statues around the outside of this main building. And a lot of bells down in there. And I noticed as I came in, there's a beautiful park area back in here. So I'm going to head off in that direction afterwards and see if I can commune with some trees over there and some nice quiet park area. And coming up this high, even a short height or a low height, you get interesting views of even the neighborhood. Some of these buildings with the browning galvanized tin roofing. And here we're looking back towards where we just came from, Mae Sot, and the main market is just off in that direction. And here are the rooftops of these cottages. Surprised that they have such a high and steep roof. I wonder if that's been done just for aesthetic reasons. We often have a very steep roof like this in Canada, but they're meant for keeping snow off the roof. In a winter where there's very heavy snows, if you have a flat roof, the weight of the snow can actually threaten the structure of the building. So they have a steep incline, and then the snow will just fall off and won't build up. So you might see such steep slopes in a Canadian cottage, but I wonder what the reason is for having such a steep roof line here is. I just noticed that this bell has Burmese script engraved on it. Burmese is something that you'll never forget once you see it for the first time. A lot of alphabets from around the world you might see and then not remember where you saw it, but this is such a unique circular set of lettering that once you get used to seeing it, you see it everywhere now and you recognize it instantly. Quite a special look to it. Yeah, this bell is covered in Burmese script. There are a variety of items up here that you could use to strike the bell. Some pieces of wood there, and then looks like there was a mallet here, but the head part broke off the handle. Okay, time to head back down. Stairs here are quite steep, and small. Definitely have to hold on to the railing. It's very nice of the monk to realize I wanted to go up there, and then he came over to tell me that it was okay. Because if I see a closed gate, that keeps me out. I'm very reluctant to open anything, even if that wasn't locked, but the fact that it was closed, to me, I take that as a sign that, no, it's closed, so don't go there. Here are the statues I was talking about. And I'm sure there is a story behind all of them. Oh, okay. So it looks like each statue is the result of some kind of a donation. I'm assuming that this plaque at the bottom is the name of the donor and how much money they donated. along with the statue perhaps, or perhaps the donation was to pay for the statue, I don't know. And I'm sure each one of these has a symbolism with a walking stick, a parasol, a teapot, and then looks like a food pot. So this Buddha image is on the move. It's a traveler. They're all travelers. The faces seem to be slightly different. So perhaps each statue is a little bit different, but they all follow the same basic theme. Another beautiful backdrop for the stupa. And on the other side are the more classic seated Buddha images. And I actually looked up the traditional name for this pose. Every pose has a special name, and I looked it up one time. This one has something to do with the hand that is pointing down and touching the ground. That is the kind of the point of this pose, I believe. And it's one of the more classic poses that you'll see. I wish I could tell you more than that. And if I remembered everything I read in my lifetime, I could tell you more than that. But like most people, I'd have to look it up all over again every time. And these are intriguing to me. The small shrines that you see tucked away in different places, and they have the various offerings still out on the table. Big juice here, and then a lot of bottles of water. And they tend to collect a lot of small statues, little images, Buddha images for the most part, flowers. So you always get quite an interesting tableau. Here we have a horse and a zebra, and then a Chinese porcelain doll sort of figure, an elephant, and then a laughing Buddha down there at the bottom. Yeah, it's interesting that there's even a ladder leading up to the top, so they can go for a walk around the shrine if they so choose. Elephants over here, and a lion down there fallen over. Giraffe back there, I just noticed. So there's always interesting things to see in these shrines. And another small one right beside it. I find the idea of monks interesting as well. And I think it speaks to how we often see people frozen in time. I see a monk here in an orange robe, and I see the monk as he is today. And yet, of course, this monk is a man, just like me, And if you talk to him, of course, you'd find out he was born in this place, and this was his mother and his father and his brothers and sisters. And he went to school and did all the things I did in my life before he reached the point where he joined the monastery here at the temple. But that's not your first instinct, is what I'm saying. I see him and I see the monk. And yeah, I actually have to stop for a second and go, oh, actually, I can just relate to him as another human just like me. He chose at one point to become a monk. I chose at one point to fly to South Korea and teach English, which is how I eventually ended up here. And we could relate on that level as humans who made choices in our life, and life carried us along, and we ended up where we are. And another interesting surprise here, a reclining Buddha. I went to see a rather famous reclining Buddha in Yangon when I was there. And again, I did a fair amount of reading about the symbolism of the reclining Buddha, the history of it. And unfortunately, I don't really remember much of what I read. But I do remember being surprised because the history of it seemed to be that the reclining Buddha dated from the final years of Buddha's life when he was quite ill. And that's why he was lying down. And yet all the statues you see, of course, of the reclining Buddha are of a young, very attractive and youthful person. So that's the one thing that I remember. And I remember that the feet of the reclining Buddha are generally covered in symbolism that all have a meaning. And when I walk around the other side, I'll see if the feet of this reclining Buddha have those images. But also what caught my eye here are these buildings here. I don't recognize them offhand, but I'm assuming they are famous, well-known structures from somewhere in this region.
A replica of Buddha's enlightenment place in India.
Oh, that's what it is.
Miniature version.
Okay.
The big monk, he died.
Oh, he died.
It's a building.
How long ago did he die?
About what today is 100 days.
100 days.
He died is 100 days. Today, this morning is the monk too much, and the people come here too much. Now it's finished.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. You inside is you can see inside.
Our master.
Your master.
Master.
87 age.
87.
87. Today is 100 years he died. 100
days.
Yes.
So he's 87 years old.
He is
จังหวัดตาก
เป็นis a big อะไรนะเรียกเป็นเจ้าคณะจังหวัดตากเรียกอะไรผิด
province
Master
of province
The whole province.
There's
Yes.
76 province in Thailand.
Right.
Province.
And he was the master of Tak province.
Yeah.
This come from is a palace, no?
Right. Yeah, I understand.
Given by the
From the royal family.
Yes.
I saw his photograph over here.
It's a look child. Look some.
The fire when he died, the fire come from to the Paris.
Oh.
This time. You are very lucky. Today is too much.
Special
too much
day.
People. Very good.
What time will all the people come?
You know, I building is a 10. I'm building.
Oh, you're building this.
My friend. That side is the Queen Buddha. You see?
Mm-hmm.
On the way. On the way. Me.
Oh, you put those there.
That side is a very big. That side me. I pay already. You can photo?
So this are for special people to sit?
People.
Monks?
Monk is a people paid in the Buddha
Pray,
for
pray.
is a master.
Every Sabbath day, pet monk pray
And they sit there.
20 minutes
Oh.
for chick
For him.
monk.
Mm. So there will be a big ceremony today?
Today is he died is 100 day,
100 days.
3 months ago.
When will the people come here?
Yeah.
What
This
time?
morning.
Oh, this morning already?
This morning go to finish now.
Already finished now.
We finish now, but it's on the 5 next month, next year, on the December is 8, 9, 12, 7 days. Only on 5. There is a 5 of the king pay.
I understand.
You understand?
I understand.
English not well, but only little.
But I still understand. Thank you.
Because it's sometimes not my language. Not my language.
No,
I
no.
speak is slowly like one word, you know, understand?
Right. But I understand.
Understand?
Yeah.
No? Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you very much.
You know, it's
Just as I was speaking about these replica temples, these buildings up there, the same monk who told me it was okay to climb up in the tower, he told me that these are the buildings where the Buddha achieved enlightenment. I believe he called them something Gaia. And it turns out that I'm here on quite a special day because the master of the temple, the head monk that they call master, and apparently he was the master of all of Tak province. He passed away at 87 years old about 100 days ago, and his body is laid out in state here. And today was the 100th day since he passed away. And this morning they had a large ceremony. A lot of people came here to honor him. Apparently people from all over Thailand came. The woman that I was speaking with, she's actually from Bangkok. That's where she was born. And she seems to have a history with this temple. I didn't understand everything that she was telling me, but I got the impression that she and her friends were instrumental in donating money for the construction and maintenance of this temple and for raising money for it. And the monk that passed away was someone that was quite important to her and quite important to the temple and all of Thailand, apparently. In the gold box, where I believe the body will be placed into this box until next year. So as I understood it, his body is here on display for 100 days after he passed away, and today was the ceremony to mark the 100th day, and his body will be burned on a funeral pyre 1 year from now. The next year in November or December, there will be another large ceremony to burn his body. And I think until then, his body will be inside this gold casket that was a donation from the royal family. There was a photograph of the king of Thailand in there. And if I have this right, she was talking about some bottles containing liquid that were on display in front of the king's photograph. And I think those liquids are used in the ceremony, perhaps for lighting the fire, for lighting the funeral pyre. It's a bit of a language barrier, so don't quote me on that, but I think that was what was going on. This is the park behind me that I was talking about. I'm going to go for a stroll through the park. And I'm getting the impression that though we are in Thailand, and of course in Mae Sot, that this temple might be more of a Burmese temple than a Thai temple. It's just in the way that people are interacting with me, and of course the prevalence of Burmese script on us, the bells and in different places. It just has a feeling of Myanmar for me right now, as opposed to Thailand. Oh, so the park area is not as large as I thought it was from a distance, but I'll flip the camera around. So here are some of the trees, no grass or anything like that, but there are a lot of benches spread out under the trees. And I am a big fan of benches. If I was ever in charge of building a world, I would make sure that there were benches everywhere. And of course, my benches would always have backrests. If I had to choose a bench, I would choose that one over there because I could sit down and then lean against the tree. I am a big leaner in that way. I can hear a lot of activity behind me from the kitchen area. I think they're busy cleaning up after the ceremony this morning. Hello, how are you? And this whole encounter makes me reflect on something that occurred to me all the time. I tend to reserve morning hours for myself. I wake up quite early. This morning I was up at 5 a.m., believe it or not. I just woke up and there I was, ready to start the day. So I was up as early as 5 a.m., but I tend to spend the early morning hours doing things that I want to do, working on whatever little projects I'm working on, replying to YouTube comments, writing emails or in my journal, reading a book, things like that. I don't tend to go out exploring first thing in the morning. And yet, you really should, because in Asia in general, as I've found out here, important events always take place first thing in the morning. So by not going out into the city in the morning, I wouldn't see things like a big ceremony taking place at the temple, because those tend to take place first thing in the morning. Hello. And if you want to experience those things, you're better off waking up and then heading out into the city. That's when all the activity takes place. By the time I get organized and head out, it's usually a little bit like mid-morning. And by mid-morning, that might be early in Canada, but that's late in Thailand. Everything's over by 10 o'clock. So you have to get up early. There is definitely a different mood here. I feel like I'm in Myanmar. I really do. Something else that the woman was explaining to me, if I understand this correctly, and the monk also talked about this, is that the big display of Buddha images next to where the body of the master was on display, there were a row of seats, and each seat had a clock beside it. And I hadn't seen anything quite like that before. And I believe the monk explained to me that in honor of the master, to honor him, all the monks at the temple would come there and sit and pray, meditate, for 20 minutes every day in the last 100 days since he passed away. And each of those chairs was reserved for one of those monks, and they would go there every day for 20 minutes in honor of their master who passed away. Just leaving from the temple now. It's just I laughed there just because I was thinking that impulse decisions can really have a big effect on your life when you're overseas. Initially I saw the temple and then I just kept walking. So I saw the temple, made a mental note to go back there someday. But I was just going to walk right on by and not go in. But then on impulse I thought, you're here, there's something interesting, you should go look when you have a chance. So following that impulse is generally a very good idea because it leads to quite interesting discoveries and experiences. I'm back on the main road, still heading outside of Mae Sot, and I came across this sign for the Japan koi farm. I wonder if it is right here. Oh, that might be it up ahead. A large statue, or do you call something like that a statue of a koi, statue of a fish? I don't know if it's back there or... No, I imagine this place behind this big wall must be the koi farm. And I wonder if it is open to the public. When we get to the gate, we'll find out. Might be another interesting detour if it's open and looks like I can go inside. So far, that would be a no. What is this place? Looks like a residence, but there's a sign there. And I see security cameras everywhere watching me, so I'm not going to linger too much with my GoPro. I'll just walk on by. You can see the security camera up there, and another one over there at the corner, and some barbed wire. So somebody important lives here. I know that koi are very popular, but I don't think they need that much security for their koi ponds. And there is the airport. The airport buildings are over there, and this is the end of the runway. I wonder if we'd be lucky enough to be here when a plane takes off or lands. Probably not. I don't think very many planes are flying right now. I think I am more than 80% still just a little boy sometimes, because I'm fascinated by the propulsion, you know, that you get out of jet engines. You see some of those places around the world where it's possible to go right up to the fence at an airport where the jets are taking off, and people go there for fun just to experience being blown head over heels by the blast from the jet engines. I remember watching an episode of Mythbusters where they tested this, and they set up their own jet in a field, started up the jet engines, and then they would drive things like school buses behind the jet engine to see if the blast from the engine was powerful enough to flip over the school bus. Spoiler alert, Yeah, it was. And the whole bus just goes flying because the force of those jet engines is really quite something. So that's the little boy in me. I would love to have a jet, fly 6 inches over my head right now. Oh, I've got quite a crowd of dogs here. 5 of them, all hanging out. Just the one doesn't seem to like me very much. Hey there, buddy.